Today on Money Matters, bank moratorium extension for those who lost their jobs or those who suffered a pay cut. How do you apply for it? And for those who have to start repaying their loans after September, what should you know? Join us as we speak to the Credit Counseling and Debt Management Agency on planning your finances.
Yes, I do. Initially, I thought that I don't have to use it because I guess I wanted to clear off my loan faster. Then I realized that the banks actually make it some sort of like optional, and if you want to move out from it, you need to contact them. So I felt a bit too lazy to contact them.
Yes, I take bank moratorium. I think for this kind of situation during COVID-19, it's safe to have a cash, for emergency, to survive this day lah.
Just that I wanted to keep the cash on hand just in case of any urgent needs. Then I'll continue back again the loan as that's required.
Haven't really discussed it with the bank, but I think we probably just continue to resume payment, resume your installment payments. Yeah. I'll continue to take it. I think it will be very helpful for us in terms of cash flow.
Hello there, welcome to another episode of Money Matters. I'm your host, Azaria Tagaya. What you just watched there was some reactions that we got from Malaysians on those who took up the offer on the current bank moratorium on loan repayments and the reasons why they took it. Now, the recently announced extension is a welcome relief for those who need it, but it isn't automatic and you still have to apply for it starting August 7th. So what happens now? It's important that we are clear on what exactly our options are. And to talk about that, with me in the studio today is Credit Counseling and Debt Management Agency, or AKPK's Financial Education Department Manager, Nirmala Supramaniam, to talk with us more about the loan extension. Hi Nirmala, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi Azaria, thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. Okay, so talking about the loan moratorium, which is coming to an end come September 30th, and also a possible extension now is available for the public as the government recently announced. So first up, on the announcement by the government, what's your take on that? What do you think when you first heard of it, and who exactly qualifies for the loan extension this time around?
I think we welcome the decision to say that because now it's on for those who are affected, because we have to acknowledge the fact that there are many out there who are affected in this situation due to the crisis.
Yes.
Some have lost their job, some have experienced pay cut. So there will be a difficulty in repaying their loans. So hence why the current package that's announced, it's for on the targeted extension. They call this targeted extension moratorium, and a repayment flexibility. So there's this kind of options that they have offered. So who are they offering this to? Mainly the targeted extension moratorium is offered to those who have lost their job in 2020 due to the crisis and have yet to found another job, have yet to be employed again. So these are the group that can apply for the targeted extension moratorium for 3 months. So there are also questions is what happens after 3 months? If I've still not got a job, you can still negotiate with the financer, with the banker, and see how you could actually resolve this situation. That could be probably another extension, but this is upon the discretion with the banks. But for now, the 3 months is there for them. And then the other group of people are those who are affected but are still employed. So these are the group that are experiencing pay cut, lower salary cut, and things like that. So for this group of people, what they are offering is, let's say if your pay cut is by 20%, 30%, or 50%. So hence your loan repayment, the monthly loan repayment, will also reduce accordingly, according to the percentage of how much your income has reduced. Yeah?
Okay,
and also depending on the type of loans that you take. So they've also mentioned, like in hire purchase, they will go in accordance of the Hire Purchase Act. Yeah? So there are things that we really need to discuss back with the financier. And this can go on for 6 months in terms of looking back to see how we actually recover back from these situations. So these are the main two categories that's been offered. But there's also another payment flexibility that's been offered to the SMEs and other individuals who are indirectly affected in terms of if they really can't afford, they can actually negotiate with the bank to say that, okay, maybe I would want to maybe I could just afford to service the interest first. So there's this option of servicing just the interest and not the whole installment. So I just pay a little bit every month. Also, another thing that was offered is on the extension of tenure. So I could actually have a longer period to pay, therefore my monthly installment would reduce.
Yeah.
And there is also another option of other kind of exemptions that would actually help to relief in their financial burdens. Actually.
I see, okay. So some people are wondering, if they take the loan extension this time around, what effect will it have on their installments or their interest rates? So basically, you can negotiate with the banks.
Yes, you can. They have asked you to call the banks after the 7th of August to actually relook and see what are the terms and conditions that they can, what are the things that you need to submit, what are the terms and conditions there, and how can you carry on. Okay. So there are two categories of people here. We have seen the interview, and these people, many of them actually took up the moratorium because it was just given, and they felt that, yeah, maybe I could actually save up some cash.
Yeah.
Some said the cash is important.
Yeah.
In fact, at AKPK, we did a polling in the beginning of April when the moratorium was offered. So we did a polling with in social media. We just asked a question to say that, would you take the moratorium? And 88% said they would take the moratorium. And then we asked the ones who said yes, and we said, what would you do? What would you use the money for? Yeah. And 48% said that they would use the money for savings. So many of them wanted to start this emergency savings fund, because I think the crisis taught us a lot of things in terms of being prepared. You know, we never thought this would happen to us, and it happened. So anything is possible in future. So this uncertainty came, the realization came to many of us. So many thought that the savings was very important, so they wanted the extra cash, so they took it. We really hope they did save the money, and they have been managing well. So this group has got to, even if now they are prepared to pay back, just continue paying back your amount, and be prepared by October. You have to start your repayment backs, and you need to contact your financier also, because there could be, there are two kind of scenarios that could happen, which is, one, there could be an increase in your monthly installment to cover up the 6 months payment that we have not made, or there could be an extension of tenure. So we need to confirm with our financier to say which of these options do I have, or can I actually opt for, or is that a choice? So I have to check that back to ensure that I'm making the correct payment after that. I don't want to get into trouble or default just because you're paying less, but that's the amount, but you're supposed to pay this. So there could be issues of such. So just to make sure, check back with your banks and ensure that you are back on track.
Okay, and in checking with your banks, you have to be prepared with the proper documentation, of course. That we will be getting back to after this. We're going for a short break now. In the meantime, let us know if you will be applying for the bank moratorium extension, or if not, find us on Twitter and leave your comments there. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Money Matters. If you just joined us, we're talking about the bank moratorium extension with the Credit Counseling and Debt Management Agency, AKPK's Nirmala Supramaniam. Nirmala, back to our discussion. Just now, we talked about who exactly qualifies for the extension. And you mentioned that there's this third group of people who can actually go to the banks and actually negotiate if they can have rather an extension or just pay the interest portion of their loans. So when you go to the banks, how do you prepare yourself? What documents do you need to have with you?
I think first and foremost, you need to have, they have not come out with the proper guideline, I think, but we were told that the banks would have to make it probably in a very simple manner. There could be maybe online submissions that they could actually do. But my understanding, a lot of banks are already doing their survey. They're actually calling up their clients and they're asking, are you facing any difficulties? Yeah. Would you be able to make your payment? You see, so the survey is already, I mean, their questions have already started, so they are preparing. So I would assume that definitely they would request for your income documentation in terms of how much are you actually getting now and what are the problems that you're facing. Probably in most cases, like when they come to AKPK, we would ask them for their income pay slips, yeah, to show, and if they are retrenched or if they're having pay cut, there's an income reduction, we would ask them for their letters from the employers, or in fact, we will also look into their EPF statements to see what are the contributions like, so then we would know there's a reduction or there's none, they've been retrenched. And and for those who are on the self-employed or, you know, they do not have this kind of documentation because this is something common, right? And so for them, we would normally ask for their bank account statements to show that there is income. And we would request them to actually go to the Commissioner of Oaths and have a declaration done to say that this is my income.
I see. Okay.
So we have ways, and I assume that the banks would also have their own ways on what kind of income. So basically here, I think they are going to assess in what kind of situation you are. So definitely the income statement would be something that is very important.
Okay, so the income statement, and for people who don't have like a steady paycheck, they can actually just their bank statements.
Yeah, normally, I mean, in terms like when they're applying for a loan, so they would also look into their bank statements. So that would be, I think, almost the same manner. But my advice is please look out to the notification from your banks, and they would definitely advise you what would be the best next step to do.
Okay, I think that's important to note because we have a lot of freelancers, people who are working in the creative and arts industry who don't have a steady paycheck to begin with. So their loss of income is not due to a pay cut, it's just because they don't get jobs and don't get gigs anymore.
And now with, and in this situation now, it is like that. There are a lot of freelancers actually. But my advice to them is always keep proper documentations of your income. Let's say you do a job.
At least have a record.
Yeah, keep a record, because this would help you in future. Let's say you want to buy a house and you want to get a loan, you know. So at least you have your documentations, you have your records that could actually help you. So it's actually very important for them.
Okay. Do you have some numbers to share with us, some statistics from AKPK? How many people have contacted you during the MCO for help? And what difference is it than the normal amount of calls that you get on average?
I mean, during MCO, because our premise was closed, so we had our calls, I mean, especially when the moratorium was announced, it was close to about 20,000 a month. And there was an increase because mainly everybody was worried, because our clients were worried to know if the moratorium was there also for them, And it was, so we advised them, and many were confused, they were also confused on what should they do, and, you know, how they should look into should they take it or should they not take it, you know, so they were also curious like that. We were also very active in terms of our education that time. We were educating the people on what the moratorium is all about, how do you make a decision, whether do you take it or don't, what would be the best action you do. Because there are a lot of queries. Some say, I'm going to save. Some say, I'm going to invest. Should I invest this money? Because it's kind of good that, you know, I'm not paying there. I use the money to invest. Well, all these things came up. So we wanted them to be on the right track. So we were giving a lot of articles. I mean, there were a lot of articles out. There were a lot of infographics out. We also had our webinar sessions still ongoing during that time. And we have our online learning portal where we had this special module to say brighter days ahead. So how do you actually look at yourself now, and how do you actually prepare yourself for post-moratorium also, actually.
Okay, so that's how AKPK helps consumers, basically. Yes. Okay, so what happens when AKPK consolidates an individual's loan repayments? What happens? Does it have any effect on their credit ratings?
All right, so when a client comes to us, we look at him or her on a holistic level. So we are looking at all their debts, and we look at their income, and in terms of what are the main expenses. We have to have that allocation, because there's no point of us negotiating or restructuring when they cannot meet the daily needs. The most important, like your core, like your food, your lodging and things like that. So we have to analyze it in full, and then we will negotiate with the financer to get a restructured repayment plan, which is affordable by the borrower and acceptable by the financer. So we try to find this ideal situation there for them so that he can continue to pay. So what happens is, once this loan is restructured, so we have all this credit rating, and in SICRIS, it will be tagged that this loan has been restructured under AKPK. But what are the benefits for this client who has this loan restructured under AKPK is that, number one, it's going to be on a one-stop, comfortable monthly installment. Okay. Yeah, so that's why I say we analyze on their expenses side. So we have a standard expenses. If you're in KL, you have family, you have kids, so your food cannot be lesser than this. Yeah, so we don't want you to live in a very rigid. You sometimes you put your budget too rigid like that, but there's no flexibility. You will fail. You will eventually you'll fail in the repayment.
So it's a long-term benefit.
Yeah, it's a long-term. Yeah.
But
so,
does it have a negative effect on your records when you are tagged?
To us, it just says that it's restructured. But when you go and apply for another loan, it's entirely up to the banks to decide.
Oh, so they can negotiate.
So, and it's entirely up to the banks to it's up to their discretion, actually.
I see.
But our concern here is, let's resolve your problem now. Okay, let's pay attention to this now, because when your records are not clean, but if you default in your payment, even now you can't afford, you default your payment, your records will be bad too. So that will also affect your eligibility to get a new loan, right? So let's look at the current situation. Let's solve this first, because when you're with us, you have this peace of mind. There will be a moratorium on legal actions as well, if they have initiated any, and also debt collectors, credit collectors will not be calling you while you're in the program, so you have this peace of mind. Okay. And now you do not have to go to all the banks and make payment. You'll be making payment through us, and our services are free of charge. Okay. So we're just taking your payment and dispersing it to the banks accordingly. So now you are more structured. You have a plan to follow. And if you have any problems, call our counselor back, see what you can do next. And we have a lot of success cases who have actually graduated, and they settle one by one, and they're happy. And now so at the end, that's what we want.
Okay, so in contacting you and getting help, I guess that's something that we can talk more about after this. We're also talking more about the loan extension, and for those of us who don't qualify under the 3 groups, we're going to have to start repaying our loans after October. So what's up next for us? We're going for a short break. After this, we'll talk about that. In the meantime, let us know what you think about the moratorium extension on Twitter. Find us at Money Matters TV3 and leave your comments. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Money Matters. We're still joined by AKPK's Nirmala Supramaniam to continue our discussion on the bank moratorium extension and financial planning. Okay, Nirmala, back to our discussion. Now, before the break, we talked a lot about how the extension works, who it works for. Now, let's give you a unique situation here. Let's say we have a married couple, a husband and wife. Perhaps the husband is taking up most of the loans for the family, and the wife is in charge of the household expenses. Because you cannot forget that you don't only have these loans, you have your bills, you have your expenses, you still have to pay for other things in your life as well. But the wife has suffered a loss in her job, so she's been laid off, so she doesn't have any income anymore. But the husband is the one who is taking care of the loans. So how does this work then? Does this family qualify to get that special negotiation with the bank for an extension of their loans?
They do fall. I mean, this is quite a common situation in a Malaysian household now, you know, because there will be one party taking care of one and the other party taking care of other things. You know, so they kind of separate. So it is quite a common situation. So this is where normally what we would advise a family is, that's why we always advise when you plan your finances, when you want to discuss, you do it as a family, you do it as a household. So here, obviously, if you look by the prince, yeah, he doesn't qualify because he's not laid off, he has a job, his income, there's no pay cut, so he should be able to pay, right? Yeah. But obviously, when you look at in the household aspect, yes, he does not qualify for that. Yeah, but we also have the other assistance, the repayment flexibility that they are giving also in terms of a household that's affected or individual. And in this scenario, this person could actually come to AKPK and we will relook at it as in a household and we'll see how we can help the husband, in this case, help the husband reduce his repayment so that he can now support the family. So hence why we always are telling people now what you should do. There is this 4A action that we are saying that you must do now is first acknowledge there is a problem. How do you know you have a problem or not? Look at the size of the amount of debts you have compared with your income and see what is the debt to income ratio here. How many percentage of your income is going out to pay your loans? If it's more than 60%, then there is an issue there. So you have to acknowledge. The second one is sit and analyze. Analyze, okay, now what is your income like? If there's a pay cut, so what is it like? Are you getting any aid? Are you getting any bantuan? Or are you taking up your income or you're withdrawing your EPF amount under the I Lestari? So these things you analyze. And what are the expenses you've got to do? And you look at that. And then you also look at what is the debts, what are the commitments you have that you have to, so you analyze the situation. So now, is it a negative or a positive cash flow there? Can you afford to pay or not? You know, so now you know your situation. Then you go to the next step of the action, the next A. So what is the action now you want to take? So you want to you have to go and contact your bank, you have to talk to them, see what can be done. Now you have to relook at your finances, prioritize them well, cut off expenses that's not really necessary, try to postpone purchases that's not really needed now. So you've got to analyze. Then there, on the other side, on your income, you have to act on that too. You know, this cannot prolong for a very long time. So what are your alternatives in increasing your income? In what ways can you diversify your sources? You know, what are the trainings? There are a lot of trainings offered now. So how can you actually upskill yourself, look into ways? So now you take the action there, right? And if you can't do this by yourself, you come to the 4th A, we have AKPK there to assist you. All right, so we are there because we also have this social synergy that we work with other organizations like SOCSO, MDAC. So we could actually direct you there if we know, okay, your problem is also income. I mean, you have a reduction, you need this additional income. So maybe you can attend trainings there, go for your allowance here and see how you can how that could actually supplement your situation, your current situation, your income, so that you would be able to pay and also sustain your livelihood. So these are the things that you should remember and start doing now. Don't wait for 7th August, don't wait for October. Start doing that now.
Okay, speaking about September 30th, very briefly before we end now, what about the rest of us who will be starting to repay their loans come October? What do we have to do now?
So now, first and foremost, contact your bank. I mean, even after this, look into, see what are the notifications sent to you. You could also list down now to see what is it. Do the same thing, do the same 4A. You know, you've got to really analyze your situation and see where you are. So we also have another theory shared by a guru saying, come back. So come back, you've got to make a comeback now. So when you analyze, you've got to cut your expenses. Your C, you cut your expenses, And if you need help, please come to us, or you can go to any of these websites, to gain information, but we want you to get valid information, so make sure it's from a valid source, and of course make a list what you owe, what you have, so in that aspect, explore your reviews, your goals. So now, because these are still loans that you need to settle, have your goal on to see when you want to settle them, how fast you want to settle them. If you can pay them early, why wait? There may be other opportunities for you in future. You never know, and this, you don't want this to disturb that. Right? So that, and build your emergency fund. We realize all of us learned a lot this time, so build that up. Go for additional income, learn up new skills, and use the current opportunity where there's so many. Every day we come across trainings, webinar sessions, learn, take the opportunity to learn, and of course correct and adjust, look where we can improve, and knowledge, always invest in knowledge. So there's so many sessions and so many talks, so many webinars.
Knowledge.
So invest in the knowledge is very important.
Knowledge is why we are talking about this on Money Matters as well. Well, thank you so much, Nirmala. That's all the time we have. It's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Well, that was Nirmala Supramaniam, Financial Education Manager with the Credit Counseling and Debt Management Agency, AKPK. Thank you to our guests once again, and thank you for watching today. That's all the time we have, but we hope what we discussed today will be useful to help you plan your finances better. If you're interested in applying for the moratorium extension, remember the application starts from August 7th. In the meantime, do get your supporting documentation ready. Thanks again. I'm Azaria Tagaya, and we will see you next week.